everyone? Welcome to the latest episode of the Dr. Quack Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Quack.
And you actually wore an appropriate shirt. This is all you're getting from the important one, Mr. Mayhem. Sarcasm. It's one of my many talents as well, because this show, all you have to say about this show is, editor, get ready. I'm going to get it out of the way early. Reasons. Because this show is nothing but, what the hell did we just watch?
Well, you can tell he enjoyed this show, but of course we're talking about Slamboree 1998. Oh my God. Some of the greatest things that ever happened in professional wrestling right here. Everybody always says 1998 was a great year in professional wrestling.
Yes, it actually was a great year in wrestling because we got a lot of great stuff in the WWF. We did not get a lot of great stuff here.
Yes. This took place on May 17th, 1998, just shortly after Stone Cold Steve Austin won the WWF title from Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 14. Took place in Worcester, Massachusetts at the Centrum.
Well, luckily we're far enough away from Worcester, Massachusetts. They get really upset when you mispronounce their name, even though they don't know how to spell it properly. So it's a good thing we're like 1,000 miles away from them.
I'm okay with that. Yeah, 11,592 in the attendance, and the tagline was, "The strong survive, the ruthless win." Yeah.
Let's go into a little history here, why this has come up the way it is. So, as he said, WrestleMania 14, Stone Cold Steve Austin won the title from Shawn Michaels, starting the Stone Cold era, and what became known as the Attitude Era. Well, part of the Attitude Era occurred 3 weeks before this show on April 27, 1998. D-Generation X rolled up to the Scope in Norfolk, Virginia, and tried to get in the show. Now, Eric Bischoff has gone on record multiple times that he didn't know they were there, because if he knew they were there, he would have invited them in because it would have created ratings. And this caused some of the stuff that happened throughout the night. Eric Bischoff challenged Vince McMahon to a match. And they had Vince Cam, and they had Doug Dillinger had a press pass for him so he could get in. This was the underlying thing all night. So they were making fun of WWF at every single way they could. There's even one line, if you see Jim Ross carrying Vince McMahon's bags, we know they're here. That was one of their lines.
Yes, we'll get into that match later on. But let's break it down here, because in commentary you had Tony Schiavone, Bobby Heenan, and Mike Tenay.
And I actually have nothing to say about this. Tony actually had a volume level on this one. There was one match he got very loud, and it was appropriate. Bobby Heenan was able to keep things rolling. Mike Tenay, I think, was the part of this that really slowed Tony Schiavone down. Because Tony Schiavone had to realize there were people out there better than him, and they were hired by WCW.
Yes. And on interview, you had the legendary Mean Gene Okerlund.
That I don't even remember interviewing.
I don't either.
And we didn't get Gary Michael Capetta at this time. We got David Pinzer. While he has a better voice, he is not a better ring announcer.
And don't forget Michael Buffer.
I was trying to forget that because he did 4 matches.
He loved this show. But yes, go ahead.
I love this show so much.
You know it all. Go ahead. Tell us who the referees were.
All right. We had Nick Patrick, Scott Dickinson, Charles Robinson, Billy Silverman, and Mickey J. And the one that didn't get mentioned on the show, on Wikipedia. Besides Roddy Piper, who was a special guest referee, they forgot to mention the late, great Mark Curtis, who did the main event. So, come on, Wikipedia. You got it right once. I guess we could expect only once from Wikipedia.
Oh, boy. And moving along, I'm going to go into my Quack Attack. Because this match here was the opener and probably the best match on the card. I'm talking about Fit Finlay defending his championship against Chris Benoit. If you want to talk a pure technical match, these two had it right here. I mean, this was 16 minutes plus of pure wrestling. This is what you want in an opener. This was something that kept the fans excited. They knew how to work the crowd while working the mat. They did it a great job. I gave this match 3 3/4 stars. I thought this was one of the better openers I've ever seen as far as WCW goes.
It was one of the better openers of pretty much any pay-per-view. This was a great match. This was for the television title. Fit Finlay brought a lot of respect back to the TV title after Arn Anderson had gone away and wasn't doing the title belt. It kind of floundered for a while. Finlay made it important again. So did Benoit, because they're getting ready to do the Benoit Booker T Best of 7 series. That's coming up very, very soon. But so this was the start of that, because Booker T came down at the end. But yeah, this was great back and forth action. This one is another one of those for you indie guys. If you're getting ready to go see WWE and get something, do some stuff behind the scenes, they didn't do a lot of high spots here. They did a lot of chain wrestling. They did a lot of close action, which is what you want to do. I couldn't go 3 3/4, but I did go 3 1/4. This was a great match.
What was that chain wrestling stuff? Is that where like Hercules took that chain when he hit Billy Jack Haynes in WrestleMania 3? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, no.
No?
We're talking about headlock transition into an arm bar, transition into a hammerlock, then a reversal into a leg hold, and then back to the headlock, and then rolling around, multiple pin attempts. Close things like what you would watch in Olympic freestyle wrestling.
Yeah, that's why it gets my quack attack.
Which we seem to always do that. The Bret Hart and Bob Backlund match. 4 stars from each of us. Chain wrestling is what people still love today. They don't care about stunt shows.
Exactly, and now we're going to move on with the rest of this card. Lex Luger taking on Bryan Adams with Vincent.
Yes, a.k.a. Soul Train Jones, a.k.a. Virgil, a.k.a. Shane, a.k.a. the guy that nobody goes and talks to at the conventions.
But look, he got Crush in this quarter, and this time he's got Bryan Adams Crush.
Yeah, there you go. So what was going on at this time, the NWO had split into 2 factions. There was the Red and Black, which was NWO Wolfpack, led by Kevin Nash. And there was the NWO Hollywood, which you can figure out who controlled that one. And you could tell because they were black and white. Old black and white.
Yes.
So, Bryan Adams was NWO Hollywood at this time, and so was Vincent. I've talked about this before. I've already done the kayfabe word of the day about psychology of making moves make sense. Luger's on the attack, and he puts his head down, and Bryan Adams goes up, jumps on him, does a pile driver, which was a god-awful looking pile driver where he actually tucked one leg underneath. I'm surprised Lex Luger actually survived it. And then goes and starts kicking him in the stomach. Why would you kick somebody in the stomach after you just almost broke their neck? We've already done reasons. I'm not going to make you do it again, editor, but that's what I mean. Ooh! I went 1.5. There was actually a boring chant at the end of this match. This match wasn't very entertaining. Lex Luger won. Yay.
Yeah, about 1.5 is about right on this. This is why it was the bathroom break match. I don't think they were expecting much out of this. This was to fill time. Because the next match here is the Battle Royal to determine the #1 contender.
I actually want to go over something a little bit first. I know you don't usually write these things down.
I just don't.
We do some stuff with people who do promos across the internet. Heart and Soul Promotions. They had Perry Saturn cut a promo on the Flock, because at this time Raven's Flock, and that he didn't need them anymore. And it was a really good, for Perry Saturn, who was not known to be one of the better talkers, this was a very well done promo. So I just want to give it up and give a little credit to Perry Saturn for doing a great job.
Good job, Perry Saturn. Perry Saturn was a hell of a worker.
Hell of a worker. Not this. As we get to this one, it wasn't one of his better matches, but he wasn't known for his talking. He was known for being a double tough guy, and I wanted to give him some credit for he did some good mic work.
All right. Well, now we'll move into this battle royal for the #1 contenders to the WCW Cruiserweight Championship.
You could tell how bored I was with this. I actually wrote down the names.
Wow, you actually did. All right, good for you.
Now, luckily, Chris Jericho came out and told us who they were, because a few of them I was not superly familiar with. I do follow some Lucha Libre, but some of these guys were a little more obscure Lucha Libre. It's really hard to get AAA sometimes.
But that was the greatest intro for every competitor. Chris Jericho knew his stuff.
It was sarcasm, but it also put them over at the same time, which is a very difficult thing to do. So good job, Chris Jericho. I agree.
He's going to get that coffee later.
Yeah. So the 14 members of this Cruiserweight Battle Royal, which, by the way, this annoyed me. I'll say this first. This was a Battle Royal where you could go out the ring in any way and touch the floor or pinfalls. We've both been in Battle Royals. Pinfalls with 14 people in the ring is a bad idea. Plus 15 because Nick Patrick was standing in there in case anybody got pinned, which nobody did, by the way.
And nobody ran into him.
Nobody ran into him, but it's a really bad idea, and these guys didn't really have a lot of coordination, because you could see several times where somebody go to whip him in the ropes, and they'd see somebody running across, so, nope, let's stop. Oh, okay, now we're ready to go. So it looked bad, and there should have been a little more coordination, but that's neither here nor there. So we had Super Calo, Chavo Guerrero, Ciclope, Damian 666, El Dandy, El Grillo, Juventud Guerrera, Marty Jannetty, Billy Kidman, Evan Courageous, Lenny Lane, Psychosis, Silver King, Johnny Swinger, and Viano 4.
Yeah.
I will say the ending I liked. Most of this was forgettable. This was a very forgettable Battle Royal. It was storyline purposes, which is rare to do for a Battle Royal, but they did it well.
Can you believe Marty Jannetty was not in a wrestling video game?
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know this.
He was not in a wrestling video game, but Quang was. But anyways.
Awesome. So to finish up here, usually Battle Royals don't work well for storyline purposes. This one actually worked really well because the last two in the ring were Ciclope and Juventud Guerrera. And they stood there. Nick Patrick kept trying to get him to do something. And Tony Schiavone was, why are these guys just standing here? And Mike Tenay was trying to put over, there's respect. Then they shake hands. Juvi eliminates himself. And Ciclope reveals himself to be Dean Malenko.
Yeah, it was a good surprise. I was happy on that. The match was par. I mean, I'll give the whole thing 2 stars just because the ending was great.
Yeah, I went 2 1/4, but almost a star and a half of that is just for the Dean Malenko reveal. It was well done. At this time, Chris Jericho and Dean Malenko had been feuding over who knows more holds, the man of 1,000 holds versus the man of 1,004. Dean Malenko had taken some time off because his father, Boris Malenko, had just passed away. So this was the surprise return for Dean Malenko. And it immediately led to the next match, the Cruiserweight title match between Jericho and Dean Malenko.
Yeah, I enjoyed this match. I mean, these guys were, again, pure tacticians. They knew how to work. There wasn't a lot of hope spot, high spot in there. You know, this was a good 5-minute match is what you needed because Jericho was in shock. I mean, I went on this match, I went 3 stars. I felt like this was a very good match for what it was. If Dean Malenko was 6'2" or higher, he would have been world champion. That's my opinion.
Multiple-time world champion. I also went 3 stars. This was solid back and forth. They really put over that Dean Malenko was angry and upset because normally he was very stoic, and this one he was very fired up. This was a great back-and-forth action. The crowd was very, very happy. Dean Malenko won with the cloverleaf, but unfortunately 2 weeks later, WCW screwed it up and gave it back to Jericho on one of those technicalities.
Yes, it was genius. Moving along here, we had Diamond Dallas Page taking on Raven in a Bowery death match.
Yeah, this took place in a cage. This was WCW's version of Hell in a Cell. But I actually liked this version.
It was a good match.
Because it was a lower down, so you could actually use the ceiling. Like one scene where Billy Kidman came in, got swung into a diamond cutter because he could hang onto the ceiling. I liked that. I thought this was a very nice, well-done cage match for the first half of it. Then we got to get this out of the way because Raven had been coming down to the ring with the Riot Squad. They were unknown people to guard him because supposedly people were coming out of the crowd trying to beat up Raven.
Most likely people from the power plant.
Most likely people from the power plant. Well, this time we actually got other people. One of them was Billy Kidman. As I said, he got swung and got diamond cuttered. Horace Boulder, who's not yet called himself Horace Hogan yet. Horace Boulder. And Mortis reveals himself at the end after he handcuffs everybody, all the Ravens flock, and takes off his helmet to reveal Mortis, then takes off his Mortis mask And Tony Schiavone pointed out, hey, I know that guy. He's been trying to get in here for all these weeks now, which was the first reveal of Chris Kanyon.
Yes.
So the first half of this match, I liked it. I went 3 stars for the first half of this fight. And then as soon as the Ravens flock started coming in, and we got to see Van Hammer with his nipple ring and all the shenanigans afterwards, I took this thing down to 3/4 of a star. So all in all, I gave it 2 stars.
Yeah, I mean, for the whole match, yeah, about 2. I'd go 2.5. I mean, I enjoyed the beginning of it. When everybody started coming in, it was really looking like a cluster. It was just, all botched, and, it looked like they were rushing it. And that was the problem with that finish. But, it led to other things. But what can you say? At least it was a good, solid cage match.
It was a solid cage match, and if it would have just stayed DDP versus Raven, we could have had a 3-star match because these guys had great chemistry, and they really played off of each other well.
Yeah. Moving along here, Eddie Guerrero taking on Ultimo Dragon.
Yeah, this was the fight for Chavo Guerrero. At this time, Chavo Guerrero used to wear the shirt that Eddie Guerrero is my favorite wrestler because for some strange, unknown reason, I actually find Chavo Guerrero to be a better worker than Eddie Guerrero. The problem is Eddie Guerrero has far more charisma.
Yes.
If they would have found a way to put Chavo Guerrero either in a great tag team or with somebody who could talk for him, we could be talking about Chavo Guerrero, former world champion.
Well, they did that later with Chavo Classic, but that didn't work out either.
Chavo Classic wasn't a great talker.
Very true.
So this was Ultimo Dragon. If Ultimo Dragon could win, Chavo Guerrero was free from having to be servituded to Eddie Guerrero. And this match was okay. I've seen much better matches out of these two guys. I really didn't like this one all that much. It really felt sloppy and rushed, like they had planned for 20 minutes and got told, okay, you got 10. So it didn't feel well put together like some of their other matches. I still went 2.5. It was still good. Eddie Guerrero got the win on this one. It was okay.
Yeah, I mean, 2.5 sounds about right. I did love the gimmick because Chavo, he was like, hit me with his hands behind his back.
The ending was better than that. Yeah, I will give you that. That play up at the end was good.
Yeah, and now we're going to move on to Goldberg against Perry Saturn for the WCW United States Heavyweight Championship.
Right now, he was, I think they say 84-0?
Something like that.
So we know Goldberg won.
Yeah.
I tried to like this match. I really did, because this was really one of the first guys that actually they put out there to see if Goldberg could actually work. No Sellberg was on full display here. Perry Saturn, honestly, he didn't look really happy during this match. Like, oh great, I have to work with this guy, this muscle-bound meathead. It was still 2.25. Perry Saturn looked sloppy. There was a couple of spin heel kicks where he kicked the top of Goldberg's head, like Goldberg was supposed to be leaning over or duck or something. I don't think they worked well together. It was okay.
Not a lot of people worked well with Goldberg, unless it was a straight-up squash, spear, jackhammer. That's what I noticed.
Yeah.
I mean, what can I say? Perry Saturn drew the short end of the stick, but he got a nice payday out of it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Moving along here, yeah. Eric Bischoff taking on Vince McMahon.
Alrighty, as we just explained, the 3 weeks forward from the Norfolk scope, and Eric Bischoff came down in his slimy, cheesy best. This one was the second one. The first one, the TV title or the U.S. title, also had Michael Buffer. This had Michael Buffer as well, and I liked the segment. I hate to say this. I liked the segment. The problem is it was 3 weeks too late. They could have even done this the next week, or because this Norfolk was Thunder, if I believe it took place on a Thursday.
Yeah.
So they could have come up on Monday Nitro. And he came out there and said, I called Vince McMahon and I demanded Vince McMahon to come down here and to explain why his people didn't show up. It would have had more impact than to wait all this time for a pay-per-view, for a build-up that everybody knew Vince was not going to show up for. But I still liked the segment. It was still a great response. but it was incomplete because it was too obvious.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny. I enjoyed it. I'm sure Vince was sitting at home when he was smoking a cigar watching this on a tape probably 4 weeks later, probably laughed at it.
Yeah, I'm sure he did, but...
Yeah, but, what can you say? At least they tried. This is where WCW started to go downhill.
Yeah, they haven't. They're still winning week to week. They haven't got to where Tony Schiavone says about Mick Foley, God, that's going to put butts in seats. That hasn't happened yet. That was the actual slide because right after that, they stopped winning. So they're still winning, but you can see the cracks starting to appear.
Yeah. And moving along here to my 2-finger salute, because this match here should have been a great classic. I've seen it a few times in the F, and I'm talking about Bret Hart, and I'm talking about Macho Man Randy Savage. But this time we had to have Roddy Piper as a special guest referee, and I'm like, seriously, Roddy Piper, can you please learn how to ref? He tried this with WrestleMania 10. He tried this in other matches, trying to referee, and it was just horrible. I mean, bad officiating, just going 1, 2, 3. I'm like, dude, work the count. Let them do their thing. He was too involved in this, and the finish on it just really stunk it up. So that gets my 2-finger salute.
Yeah, now, Tony Schiavone lied and said this is the first time that Bret Hart and Macho Man Randy Savage have ever been in a ring together. Now, while it is true, this is the first time they ever appeared on a pay-per-view in the ring against each other. It's not the first time they've appeared in a ring against each other. So, thank you, Tony Schiavone. Bok. Yeah, this was overbooked and underwhelming. This is only 6 months after the Montreal Screwjob. You can tell Bret Hart is not happy because he showed up in WCW and realized how disorganized and mismanaged it was. He said that many, many times. He got there and went, what the hell did I get myself into? And then this overbooked cluster, which involved Miss Elizabeth coming running down to the ringside, and it involved Hollywood Hogan coming running down to ringside, a foreign object getting punched at back of the head of Roddy Piper being taken off of Bret Hart, ending up on Macho Man's hand. They announced this thing as a submission, but actually it was a disqualification. Neither one of these guys looked all that terribly happy. In fact, Randy Savage in like 3 weeks was out for knee surgery, so he really wasn't into this match. Bret Hart didn't care anymore. 1 3/4 for these two Hall of Famers who should have been the main event of just about any pay-per-view, but we got it 3 years too late.
Yeah, we did. And now we're moving on to the main event.
I can't even get up. Okay, the main event.
Sting and the Giant taking on the Outsiders with Dusty Rhodes. Remember, Dusty Rhodes was NWO at this point. Yeah. WCW Tag Team titles. Let me tell you, this was one giant clusterfuck.
Yeah, okay, I'm actually going to give it up for the main event because Mark Curtis, a great referee, got to do this match. He was truly the best part. He was like what we talked about in our AWA reviews. He was a referee that would show you what happened. He would get excited about what was going on, watching the great action. He was involved in the matches, but still called them well, and everybody knew what was going on. Unfortunately, he died in 98 or 99 of stomach cancer, but still an incredible referee. Another one of those, when you open it, Mark Curtis better be in that Hall of Fame.
Definitely. He definitely deserved it. This match here, yeah, I mean, it was cheese. But it was WCW at this time. Yeah. You did not expect any less. This is why viewers started to change more from WCW to WWE. I was watching Raw live and recording Nitro because I wanted to see Raw live.
Yeah. Now, the thing they put over on this is nobody had seen Scott Hall. Scott Hall was suffering a little bit from demons. So that was the explanation was that he had taken a hard bump and he was nobody had seen him for a while. Well, we get told he's showing up. So Hall and Nash, the Outsiders, who are both Wolfpack, with Dusty Rhodes, who's Wolfpack, taking on the Giant, who just joined NWO Hollywood, and Sting, who is not yet a member of the NWO. And this match was okay. I mean, it's 5 months before World War III, when the Giant took a bad power bomb from Kevin Nash because Kevin Nash didn't plant his feet properly, even though they had done it right before 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. So
we get that talking about. We get a lot of not action except for Scott Hall, which was good. We get Sting standing there at the end confused. So this is a little bit of history, because this is when Scott Hall turns on Kevin Nash and becomes NWO Hollywood. Which is all to set up taking the title off of Goldberg later. This was all their big plan.
Yeah. It was a very long, illustrious plan. Long storyline, you might say.
Yeah, a long storyline that nobody cared about.
Yes. But yeah, that's our show here.
Yeah. Oh, no.
What?
Every time you say, so that's the end of our show, you always have something god-awful to show next. You don't get excited about the end of the show, because when you're excited about the end of the show, there's something going to be good up there, and I'm willing to bet there isn't.
What do you mean? I mean, we're going to find out what's up here. I'll just tell you, I think the Doctor is in. I'm Dr. Quack.
And I still have a pulse, folks.
We'll see you next time.